It's a numbers game with your host, Gill Alexander.
It's one of those idiots who believe in analytics.
Hour number 2 of a numbers game right here at VEASAN, the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Sirius XM Channel 204, VEASAN.com, the VEASAN app. However you're taking us in, we appreciate it. It is Gill Alexander. Producer number 5, Jeff Parles, is here. Todd Wishnev, tag team. Tags Bill Krackomberger. Bill Krackomberger at Bill Crackman with a K on Twitter comes in for a special Wednesday appearance. Why can't you be on tomorrow again?
Heading to Florida / the Bahamas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just for 2 days, though. This is a business trip. I might not even pack any suntan lotion or anything.
Are we staying at the Atlantis? Where are we staying?
No, Baha Mar.
Baha Mar.
Yes, they have a tournament this weekend, and it's a guaranteed $7,500, so I have to go. It's just positive EV.
Yeah.
That no matter what, everyone gets at least that.
So I have to go.
It's actually a sickness, really, because I just flew in from Atlantic City 48, not even 36 hours ago, flying back out again. Flying doesn't bother me.
Did you just fly in for this and fly out again?
Oh, no, I actually flew in. Well, I like to say that. I flew in to around my schedule is the VEASAN and Gill Alexander, yes.
Oh, thank you.
But it happened to be the same night that I'm going to Lady Gaga's.
There you go. Which are you going to?
I want to go to both, but tonight's the Enigma show with
which
the
is
regular
the
hits.
big show. For those who don't know, Lady Gaga, who does a residency, or as we like to call it here on the numbers game, Gaga.
Right.
Lady Gaga, she has 2 shows. She has the big Enigma show, which is her big, splashy.
Right, all her big hits.
Yeah, all her big hits. And then she has the jazz piano show.
Which, by the way, I think is going to be fantastic. I seen her with Tony Bennett twice, actually, and I thought she was like Judy Garland. She was statuesque. She was, her voice is unbelievable.
Super talented.
Oh.
Super talented.
Oh, I tell you what, the show that I seen with both of them. Just think about the legendary people you're talking about. I would love to see that again. But tonight's show is the regular show. Like I said, the residency includes the jazz show, which I've seen. You could just, people don't realize this. You can go to setlist.com and see. Yeah. Any single show that's coming to your area, you could see the songs they've sung before time. If you don't want to be surprised, I want to know what the songs are and stuff.
So, my favorite single thing about living in Vegas is the proximity and the accessibility to live music.
Oh,
so when I lived in D.C. or San Francisco, in order to go to any of these concerts, it requires a little bit, okay, well, I got to get on the Beltway, I got to get on a freeway. It's a bit of a schlep.
Yeah.
Here in Vegas, it's like 20 steps out of your door where I live, right? So Gaga, she's like, I could go see her every night. I have yet to see her because she's not an artist I gravitate towards. But that's not a statement. I am completely in aware that she is wildly talented. But I've yet to go. So you're going tonight.
Well, if you like those kind of standards, like the Tony Bennett Sinatra songs and that kind of stuff, I'll be happy to assist or take you.
Oh, okay.
To that one.
I would love
show.
to go to that one. It was a romantic night for you and me.
The missus does not want to go to that one. She wants to go to tonight's show. So, and I said, wow, no, I'm not going to. But the other show is really cool, too. It's really cool. She, literally a whole brass band, 20-piece band with her. So
Vegas is the greatest. I went to a Lionel Richie show, and Gaga was sitting 2 rows right behind me.
Oh, that's great.
That's how.
That's so cool.
Vegas is the greatest.
Yeah. By the way, wasn't that a great show?
Oh, how great is it? I've seen him 3 times.
Someone got me really good tickets like that. I was up front, and I was like, wow, I can't believe the songs he sings. You forget that he was with the Commodores all those years. And,
come on.
And he was great.
Let me read some tweets here, because one of these we'll get to. We're going to get to you here, Bill, because I went on a rant yesterday.
Oh, sure.
Let's see here. Let's start with some of these. Mike Zhang, this was for Todd. I should have written this one. Read this when Todd was here. Did you do better prep today? Because I had lambasted it for a show prep. Let's see here. DeGen, man, I can't wait to hear what Gill has to say about the Nats win. I was insufferable last night. I hope you heard the first segment. This is from, let's see, Nate King pointing out, yes, interesting how things played out in the 5th. Suzuki walks. Robles can't bunt him over, so has to swing with 2 strikes, gets a base hit instead of 1 out, guy on second, runners on first and second. No outs, difference in 1 run and a 3-run inning. Absolutely. A lot of hedge questions. Frank Alexander, Frankie Gravity. Hi, Gill. You have been so on point with your analysis of the series. I would like to add that another reason the Nats look so juicy again tonight is the Nats are playing with confidence on a 6-game winning streak as dogs, and Astros burdened as the mental favorite. Maybe so. Not something that I would necessarily gravitate towards, but worth mentioning, I suppose. Bill McNeil, hey, Gill, why does Dan always sound like he's right there in the studio with you while some of your other guests sound like they're transmitting from Mars? Just curious. Great question. Because he's on Skype, and it sounds awesome. Sounds like he's right here.
There's more to that than that, but he is the greatest audio setup in the history of audio.
In the history of vCenter podcast ever, he's got the best audio setup ever. Big Kahuna Sports. And this is the one I wanted to send to you here, Billy. By the way, yesterday, Gil, perfect comments about quote-unquote sharps. Drives me crazy when people say sharps are on this side, as if God has spoken. I love when sharps are against me in NBA. Improve my number. CLV, don't get me started. Closing line value is what he's referring to there. Basically, just to bring it to you, Billy. So I got a question yesterday about how I feel about the use of the term sharps, and I had a rant about it. And I believe it to be, just the sort of thumbnail of it, the Cliff Notes, or Monarch Notes, whatever you preferred back in the day, was that I feel like it's the most overused term in sports betting. And that and I'm not talking about anybody in particular, I'm not talking about any network in particular, but when people talk about sports betting, it seems to be a sort of hack for some people to go into this sharps versus squares thing. And I went into the fact that back in the day, when I was reared on Pinnacle Sports, and Pinnacle, there's no bigger fan of Pinnacle than Pinnacle, their definition of a sharp bettor was the rate at which any bettor beats the closing line. And so if one bettor went 15-0 and the other one went, 7-8, but the 7-8 guy was getting better closing line value, that was a sharper bettor by definition than the 15-0 in terms of projecting forward. That was their definition. Now, that has problems because it's in a vacuum. They don't know what these other outs are that these gamblers are using. And Chrissy Andrews, old school, he'll tell you the opposite. He goes, I don't care about any of that stuff. Are you winning or are you not? Right? That's his only definition of it. And so I guess my point is, we've gotten in this cottage industry. Some people are of talking about this is what sharps are doing. This is what this is what, this is the right side, quote unquote, regardless of result. And my point is, I don't bet in theory. I bet in reality. I see my account, right? So when I see people telling me that Denver is the right side, the sharp side in a Thursday night game where the Kansas City line goes down to -3, that's not sharp to me. And I don't care what the supposed definition of that. I guess what I'm saying is, do you find the overuse of, do you find that term overused as much as I do, and in fact, deployed improperly as much as I do?
I have a ton of things to say on this. Great subject. One, the 7-8 guy, long term, will beat the 15-0 guy. So to go back to what Chris says, long term, the 7-8 guy will get the money more than the 15-0 guy.
That was the old Pinnacle definition.
The old Pinnacle definition. Yeah. And Pinnacle now is not Pinnacle what it used to be.
Right.
Back then, the strength behind Pinnacle, of course, they don't want people knowing this, but people in the know, which is not just me, a lot of people know this, it's not the same Pinnacle anymore.
Right.
They had 3 of the sharpest guys. They had the original computer group, the guys that were in the computer group running Pinnacle. The 2 guys that ran it, really, were some of the sharpest guys in the world back in the 70s and 80s and early 90s. So they were a betting book back then, too. They weren't just a booking book. They would get things overnight for like $50, literally $50, 50 grocery dollars, and they would kick it out and bet 25 and 50,000 on it. That's a true story. Mm-hmm. I know that firsthand from some people. So they were a total different operation now. They sold now, and I guess they obviously know the sharper accounts, just like the sports books here, the brick and mortars here. They know the sharper accounts. They know which ones to move and which ones not to move. So again, the long term, the 7-8 guy will get the money. The term sharp, absolutely correct. The term sharp is probably overused way too much and looked at way too much, because there are plenty of syndicate groups that'll actually bet last minute, which is against the sharps. However, they're sharp themselves. So who really is sharp? A, B, C,
right,
or D, who wins consistently too?
That's right.
So
and that's exactly what I said yesterday. There's so much gray area in all of this that you don't really know what's going on anywhere. And like I said, the simplest definition of that, what Pinnacle was saying, was in a vacuum, but they don't really know what's going on with those bettors elsewhere. Plus, this notion of sharp is, one of the blessings that I've had is I've been exposed to many, many, many bettors, as you have, and really some of the great ones, and the different ways at which they approach betting sports. And on one side, I refer to my buddy E, who shuns analytics entirely, right? Super sharp. On the exact opposite end of the spectrum, our friend Rufus Peabody, who takes his brain completely out of it and is completely numbers, right? Even says, if I put my brain into it, this stuff. he is as successful doing it completely differently. Then there are people who are just watching screens all day, right? There are people who surround themselves with experts, and their talent is just in their skill set. Like Billy Walters, one of his big skill sets was he just had this amazing network of outs to begin with, right? So there's so many different definitions of this to begin with. What are we talking about when we use that term? It's not a catch-all.
Right. Right, it's true. They, it is. It's a great subject. It's definitely an overused word. And when I hear some of the people on air talk about, the sharps bet us this and the sharps bet us that. Well, how sharp is it? Maybe they're just shaping the line. Maybe if you're not taking a bet but you're moving on air, you think it's a sharp bet offshore because, let's face it, it only takes a little bit of money to move these lines overnight the wrong way. There's tons of manipulation in the market,
especially in sports that are not football, right?
Yes, well, especially we're not talking NFL or even NBA sides. We're talking college football totals or college basketball totals. Oh my God, there's so much stuff that goes on there, and only the real guys know really what's going on. So there's a lot of hypothesis and thinking. Oh my God, let's make an educated guess here and here. Moving on air sometimes hurts sports books too. So I like the idea that you take a bet and you move on it, or that a syndicate group is going out on this particular play and you're moving your line and you're not just guessing. So there's a lot to what you're saying here, and as the season goes on, you'll see, especially this college basketball season. Just watch those. You see how much they move. Look at the beginning of last NBA season when the points, the totals were moving like crazy. There's so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes for a sharp sports bettor, and for another group to come in last minute and say, hey, yeah, that moved way too much. The other side, both sides of the game can be sharp. That's unbelievable. It's an absolute fact that both sides of the game can be sharp.
Well, and we talked about it with Alan Boston last year on the show, who you were kind enough to hook me up with, and love having Alan on. And we'll have, by the way, the three-man weave guys on to talk college basketball, courtesy of Alan. But that was sort of the big conflict, right? So Alan is an originator. Alan is a handicapper. So he's super sharp doing that. Then and I believe I'm on his thinking, justifiably bothers him is this equally sharp at what they do, but they're not originators at all. Folks who come in and then basically either use his knowledge or somebody else's knowledge, and then they, with the liquid that they have, are able to manipulate what's going on, for lack of a better, I just want to make it a general statement. But essentially what you have, and this is sort of what you were talking about, but not exactly, you have people who have different disciplines doing skillful things sort of at odds with each other kind of thing.
Yes, it's I don't know if Alan ever discussed this, but this happened to him with Twitter 2 seasons ago. He would put a game on Twitter +8, it would go to 9. He's like, what's going on here? I give out like 3 or 4 games, and it happened consecutive days, even consecutive weeks. And I spoke to Alan about this, and he's like, something's weird. I put a game, it goes the other way. Not that I want it to go my way, but something's very strange. And it was because somebody, a giant bettor, much bigger than Alan's network, was actually betting the opposite way because he knew what Allen was on, getting a better line for himself and coming in. He's just betting the key books. Now, when I say the key books, it only takes 1 or 2 sports books for you to bet them and everyone else to copy those lines. So someone was betting the opposite way, getting a better line for himself, and then peppering the whole entire screen, maybe betting 3,000 one way, the wrong way to move the line, and betting 25,000, and they're real numbers too. Yeah. And he found out who it was and turned around in his hand. But this happens. It's amazing.
But and then the extra layer of this, and this has nothing to do exactly what we're talking about. It's sort of like a personal preference thing. The other layer is then your personal constitution. What is it that you just innately sort of respect and gravitate towards to? And I innately am a handicapper, so I gravitate towards an Alan Boston. Like, I respect that more. I respect that discipline more than other disciplines in sports betting, right? Like, to me, originators, people who actually have an opinion, I respect opinions. So the other people, I'm not begrudging them what they do, but that's just their own discipline, and they choose to do that with their lives. Doesn't mean I have to love it as much, right? I love people who have an opinion, and that's That's what I gravitate towards. That's what turns me on about sports.
You must love Alan then. He has opinions on everything outside of sports also.
Our conversations are often about non-sport things.
But however, though, he not only is he an originator, he's a fantastic interview. Now, I know he goes to different places,
yes,
but just to listen to him and break down things. I know he hates certain coaches, but likes other coaches too. And he has no filter. Yeah. Obviously, you know that.
Have you heard my chats with Alan? They're
zero
phenomenal.
Filter. And I love that he goes off on listen,
me too.
One of the reasons I wanted to meet Alan so bad was because of 20 plus, more than that now, 23, 24 years ago, hearing Alan on a show. I said to my wife I said, I have to meet this guy. This guy's unbelievable. Just to hear his stories and he's like Teddy Atlas too. They're very blunt. There's black and there's white. There's no gray. So
Teddy's fighter okay, by the way?
Yeah. Teddy went to the hospital with him, and they went over, and both fighters went to the hospital.
Okay.
And they're fine. And Teddy just had a new granddaughter, so things are all right there.
All right. I didn't mean to break your flow.
No. Anyway, so going back to Alan though, he's a great. Listen, is he on here like weekly? I don't know.
College basketball's coming, so I hope to have him on, and he's got his guys that he wants me to have on too. So
by the way, he does everything. If people don't know this. Yeah. I've been in Alan's presence many times. It's unbelievable. He still does things the old-fashioned way. Old notebooks piled up, and he knows exactly what page to go for this team and this stat. Everything's done by hand. There's no analytics here. Yeah. This is a guy that does things by hand, puts the time in, he does reading, and he just does his own work.
And he's been completely, let me just say it personally, he's been completely generous to me, a total mensch. Yeah. Hooked me up with Scotty Shetler, too. Just wonderful. And so I appreciate you making that
great handicapper. Even college football. I mean, listen, the guy worked for Mr. Walters, as he calls him, for many years.
Mr. Walters.
Just think about that. Yeah. Billy only hired the best people. Alan was one of them.
Yeah. And I would just say this. How many times, besides talking about the improper use of it, how many times have you ever, on a numbers game in 2.5 years, ever heard me use the term sharps? Zero. Just my opinion about it.
Yeah.
It's all brought to you by the BetMGM app, everybody. New Jersey's ultimate online destination for basketball fans with a special offer for new customers tonight. The matchup between the Knicks and the Spurs, just use bonus code VSIN100 to place a $1 pregame moneyline bet on the Knicks tonight and win $100 if R.J. Barrett scores. Just has to score 1 point. If R.J. Barrett scores, that's right, first-time BetMGM bettors, 100-1 odds on R.J. Barrett scoring a point when you bet $1 on the Knicks. That's tonight. Use bonus code VSIN100. Just download the BetMGM app today to place your first bet. Check out the lines on all your favorite sports. It's time to believe in your game at BetMGM. Turn your predictions and convictions into real money bets on parlays, boosted odds specials, in-game live betting, and much, much more. Download the BetMGM app or visit BetMGM.com today. Get 101 odds on the Knicks when R.J. Barrett scores a point tonight. Got to be 21 or older. Must be in New Jersey. Restrictions apply. Visit BetMGM.com for full list of terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's the BetMGM app. Coming back, more with the Crack Man. Find out what he wrote for Gaming Today this week, among other things, right here on A Numbers Game, exclusively at VSiN.
Keep it right here for more of A Numbers Game with Gill Alexander.
If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
Jets on the road against Jacksonville. What do you have here?
Yeah, same as the look headline. 4.5. We opened at 4.5 today, and we're still at 4.5. Jacksonville's power rating really didn't change with their performance today against the Bengals. Yep. And like you mentioned earlier, the Jets play tomorrow night.
Yep. All right, so we go to Philadelphia. Buffalo off the board right now. Looked like there were some look-aheads in the range of 2.5, 1.5. Is that correct for you guys?
Buffalo opener was 1.5.
1.5.
Bills minus 1.5. Philadelphia, not great performance.
No.
So we'll see what we reopen this thing at tomorrow. But Buffalo really didn't have a great performance today either.
Yep. No, that's a good point. So what do we do with the Rams after the get-right spot? Now back at home against the listless Cincinnati Bengals.
London.
Oh, no, you're right.
This game is in London. Yep. We opened this game 12.5, guys. Actually, 3 points higher than the look-ahead number of 9.5. So it really speaks to the quality of the performance of the Rams today. I know the Falcons are awful, but it's still an impressive win. Their offense looked better. Jalen Ramsey, the new addition at corner for them. And I think the Bengals are going to have some of their key cornerbacks out for this game as they travel across the pond.
I mean, you can say right now the 3 worst teams in the NFL are the Dolphins, the Bengals, and the Falcons, and the Rams catch 2 of those on back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, that's fair.
I appreciate you leaving the Redskins out of that, man. That was classic.
Oh, the Redskins would be 4th on that list, but they had a key win last week over the Dolphins. Eagles at Bills, 3 straight road games for Philly. It looked like the look-ahead line at the Westgate was a pick'em.
It was, and we reopened it at -1.5 on Buffalo before this game kicked off, Matt. I think after this performance, you're going to see this thing drift up closer to 3 tomorrow. Now, at a full 3, a +3 -110, I think people would take Philadelphia here because Buffalo didn't exactly have a hugely impressive performance themselves today,
Right.
hanging on to beat the Dolphins at home. But I do think this number will be a little higher than the look-ahead line of Pick'em.
Think about it. Not just 3 road games, too, for Philly. Look at the 3 defenses they have faced on these road trips, right?
3 top 10 defenses, 2 top 5 defenses.
Minnesota, Dallas, and now Buffalo. So that is massive. And you would hope that they get healthier along the offensive line if you're going to look at them catching points against the Bills. But
I think they really need to get Deshaun Jackson back, too, because they're more of a big play offense when his speed is out there to stretch the field. You got to have Jason Peters back on the offensive line. Could be one of the best offensive lines in the NFL when fully healthy, but they're not really a big play offense until they get Deshaun Jackson back. And I think he will. There's a decent chance he'll be back for this Buffalo game.
And I'll tell you what, there's one, and it's early in the season, but one troubling trend that is popping up here for Philly. They're 1-3 on the road this year. And they also lost the game to Atlanta earlier in the season. We have seen what Atlanta is up to this point. And their wins against the Luke Falk-led Jets, the Redskins, and then you caught the Packers on the road on Thursday night. But it's not an impressive resume from what we've seen from Philly thus far.
Welcome back to A Numbers Game with Gill Alexander.
We get tweets at Beating the Book. Thank you to everybody who gives us feedback on Twitter. It's always insightful, entertaining, fun to read. Gaming Today. Your buddies over at Gaming Today tweeted. And the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor goes to Todd Wishnev for his football coach portrayal with Gill on VSiN Live. T-Wish.
Todd was really good today.
Todd's always good.
I listened to like a half hour coming in. He was really good.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Todd is always good.
Zigzag. Sideways zigzag.
Diagonal zigzag.
No, he was good though. He was, he was very good.
Let me say, he's awesome. Love having him in. Let's see here. Nate McMillan. Gill let Tom know. I think he meant Todd. Seem to remember Brian Westbrook falling down before the goal line about 10, 15 years ago, but I like his point. P.S. Patricia is a Belichick disciple. Yes, of course. And we do remember the Westbrook play. Gilly Ice, talking tennis right there. Nats today, too. How do you bet against Strasburg? Yes, we're betting the Nats. Tim Foote, this is what makes Gill have the best 2 hours of my day. Todd Wishnev and Bill Krackomberger, great listens. No need for lotion, Bill. Appreciate all that you gents do to entertain us all. I don't even know. What does that mean?
I don't think we want to say on air. Tim's a good guy, though. Good, very loyal guy, and he actually sends always sends some love once in a while.
Really appreciate it, Tim. David Purdom from ESPN.
Ooh, big shout out there from the #1 gaming writer in the world.
Yes, he is. Good segment, Gill. I like to discuss sharps with the bookmakers who tell me about the players they respect who bet their opinions. Yes, opinions. I also try to make sure to mention what price number they took. Yeah, that's we're referring to getting the best of the number. Fabulous T-Rex Sunshine Jones. What a great Twitter handle that is. In my humble opinion, the complete overuse of sharp bettors, etc., is comical. Fairly obvious good plays are now dismissed because the quote-unquote experts or so-called quote-unquote sharps have to be contrarian for the sake of it to remain too cool for school and turn every play into calculus. I believe he's been listening to the phrases we use here on the show. Thank you to everybody for all that. We appreciate that, and always interesting to talk to you about that, Billy. You said you want to talk about the exciting...
Well, let's talk about a couple things. One,
yes.
Let's stay on the same subject because it's kind of draws a parallel to my article this week that I wrote for Gaming Today. It's also on the Crack Wins app and Crack Wins. I actually wrote about groups of people that come in. These ladies that came in, a friend of mine's mom and her friends were here last week, and I couldn't believe how much they gambled. They came in for like a 48 hours, and they gambled 36 of it, and it's just amazing. And but these dames rough it up. I mean, they were very successful businesswomen, and they rough it up. I mean, they hit like 12. Well, you could say broads, but I don't want to really say that.
Right. No, I understand.
I guess I just did say that. Anyway, so they they're playing, and they're literally playing machines that are like lots of money. You're talking 5-figure swings. These ladies were playing, and I just couldn't believe how, they're in their late 50s, early 60s. Like, they were really cool though. And just listening, I usually at dinner people want to know what I do, and they're fascinated by my world, which really is not as fascinating as people think. But now I was interested in them. I said, "Wow, you girls are coming in at this time and just come in and just stay up all." And then, by the way, they canceled their flight, stayed an extra day, and went right to work. Like, I did that in my 20s, not in my 60s.
Wow.
Oh, so anyway, very, very big swings though. Like I said, there, and I just wonder how many people like that there are throughout our city any given weekend. And it's the bread and butter too. They're playing machines. There's no high maintenance. So I wrote an article on that, and I wrote an article on how many people these casinos have. They make their living. Up to a third of the profits are off these penny machines, which, by the way, don't take pennies. Like the minimum bet's 50 cents, and the maximum could be, literally $25 on a penny machine. I've seen machines that people were playing pennies, $10 a spin. Playing 1,000 pennies or whatever it may be. So I wrote about that, and then I'm going to read you verbatim what this said. Despite the massive profits, so many of the casino executives take it personally when a guy like me plays a bank of progressive video poker when it hits positive expected value. Or better yet, when I play blackjack in situations that provide me with the slightest of edge. I want to go on record and say that if I ever ran a casino, everyone would be welcome. All their fears about banning the advantage player or sharp sports bettors, all the fears are way overblown. A large percentage of these so-called sharps overbet or change strategy when losing. Do you know how many sharp or professional poker players are broke? Why? Because the skill they use at the table goes out the window when they're losing. They literally they play different. They tilt. They go on. They steam. They go right to the casino floor. How many big giant names in the poker world that have won millions and I'll say this, even tens of millions, don't have any money because of other factors. So these casino executives, and one recently told my host, this was a VP of operations, said, that Krackomberger, he's actually trying to win. Because my casino host came behind and told me, he goes, man, I can't believe he said, of course I'm trying to win. Everyone's trying to win, by the way. College degree boy. You know what I mean? But, give me a break. Like I said, these
college degree boy.
Yeah, they're ridiculous sometimes. They first of all, if they don't gamble, they're dangerous.
Right.
I want nothing to do with them. If you don't gamble, if you don't know what it is to lose a paycheck, I don't even want to deal with you or anyone in your department, because that means you're giving orders out not knowing anything.
Never having had the feeling.
Never had the feeling.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
You brought up something there. I don't want to let it slide by. But you're talking about some of the greatest players still fall victim to some of the things that the average player would fall. Even the best players are, for whatever reason, are penniless in the end.
Right.
Let me just take that to sports betting. I've said this before on the show. I won't name him by name, but I refer to him often on a numbers game. One of the best sports bettors, if not the best that I ever know. And even he will admit, right? He will admit that he is so... He wouldn't use the word arrogant, but he takes it so personally if he's losing on any given day, forget week or month or year or whatever, but any given day, that even he knows that he is susceptible to the chase, right?
Right.
And knows that he is going over his skis. But just to let you know that no one is infallible, right? Even the best are still human in the end. And that when we talk about, let's not deify anybody, right? We all have our human flaws. And that applies to even the best in this business.
And I'm not trying to point out or pick out poker players. Actually, it could be easily sports players.
Absolutely.
One of the sharpest sports betting groups I know of, the head of the group today is broke.
Yeah.
So, if you have things that are, let's say you have something that's a 3% edge, and you're pushing a bet on that particular 3% edge, maybe you lose, and maybe you lose another 3% game. Maybe you lose another 3% game, and then the night game, if there is a bet, maybe it's only a 0.5% edge on your chart. However, you bet the same exact money, you're betting 6 times more than you should. Mm-hmm. So it's... And sometimes they just say, let me just get out with this game. Even though they're that sharp, it's like the reasoning is like some of the originators, they actually would be unsuccessful if they had to bet the games.
Right.
So that's why they have a guy like Billy Walters betting the game for him. Because maybe if a Michael Kent, by the way, this is all public information too. Great. I think I mentioned it on this show before. Fantastic story if you put in the words computer group sports betting. That original story, it's like a 27-page story on the internet. It's fantastic, and it covers what I'm saying. So the original computers were at Monmouth College in the 80s, and that's how Michael Kent developed this program. And Billy hired him right away with Doc Midland. It's a great story. Read the story. So going back to my point, though, some of the guys that actually do the handicapping, the originating, they would be very, very unsuccessful if they had to bet the games themselves because emotion, human element would be get involved, and they probably would fail because they don't know about the bankroll management and the skill sets needed to be successful.
And there's no shame in that, right? Not everybody has to have every skill, right?
No.
Yeah.
Sure. No, I agree 100%. Oh, yeah. And listen, even myself, I'll find myself, overplaying promotion sometimes. I have to catch myself. A video poker promotion, let's say. So I'm told by some guys, hey, listen, you have to put $100,000 through the machine, and we're going to give you $1,000 in free play. Now, 100,000 sounds like a lot. It's really not a lot. If you're playing a 99.6 game and you're getting 1% fully back with the 1,000 of the 100,000, so the game's actually in your favor. Let's just round it off a 0.5%. So now you're 100,000. Unless you hit a royal during that $100,000 that you put through the machine, you're going to lose because the royal is 5% of the jackpot. Unless you run really lucky with quads, so you're going to lose because when you're playing video poker, the payout of the machine, 5% up to 5% of that is the royal flush, is the maximum jackpot royal flush. So if you don't hit a royal, you're going to lose money. So at the end of that session of putting 100,000 through the machine, I may be down 2,800, and sometimes I'll actually overplay. And I know I'm supposed to play 100,000, but I'll do it purposely sometimes too because I don't want to play just exactly 100,000. And the host or the guy with the college degree saying this guy's a nit. You know what I mean? This guy's a nit. He played exactly 100,000, so I'll play 110, 120,000. But then again, you know, an idle mind is a devil's playground. You're away in a far off place like the Atlantis or the Bahamas or whatever it may be, and it's like you're up in the room, and what are you here for? To gamble. Let's go downstairs and gamble. Now, that's the way everyone thinks, but the sharp mind should not think that way. But sometimes it happens. You know, we have leaks too. We're not sharp at every single thing. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's just something. The hardest thing to do is to take a loss at the end of the night when you have more money left. Yeah. You know, at the end of the night, you're like, you know, I have a $50,000 credit line here. I'm down $5,000. All right, I'm leaving. I have 45,000 more available, but I'm leaving. That's the hardest thing to do, and that's why it's very dangerous for most people. Any kind of gambling, sports betting, anything, lottery, bingo, keno, machines, tables.
Yeah. No, and in sports, the only difference being the schedule ended, so there's nothing left to bet today. Right?
Oh, and that's the reason. Just like poker, the poker tournament's over. You won your money, or you lost your money, or the poker game's over. The game broke up, and now what am I going to do? It's 9:00. What do you do? There's a giant neon playground there for you.
That's right. So that you wrote about this gaming.
That was it, really. Okay, yeah, I just wrote about that story and about.
Always interesting.
Yeah, I try to. I don't have a college degree. I don't have a journalism degree. I put like 3-4 hours into 8 paragraphs. It's amazing how hard it is to get. You get writer's block. You have to come up with new subjects every week. And by the way, I actually do a couple different articles. You know, I mix in a couple articles during the month for other sources. So it becomes difficult when you have to come up with new subject. Even though our life is gambling. Yeah. It becomes, I guess even like a show, like even though it's a couple hours a day.
But writing is difficult, right? Writing, here's the secret about writing. I hope nobody's catching this. Unless you put something down on the paper, you have nothing, right? Like it's this strange thing. It's different from radio, right? You show up every day at a certain time, and it's like, well, I'm going to say something. I don't know if it's going to be good or not. Hopefully it's good. But writing, it's like, no, you've got nothing until you have a rough draft, right? It's totally
It's always a rough draft for me. Very good.
It's
You know
always
that. It is.
Yeah.
I have to go over and over it. And I'm always entering. I'm always sending the thing late. That Steve Carper, the editor, he must hate me over there because I'm always sending it last minute. And anyway, it's tough for me to do it, actually, to come up with this every week, believe it or not. It sounds like it's an easy thing to do, write an article every week. It's not. It's tough.
You always do very well with it.
Thank you.
Gaming Today, Bill's article's there. We'll come back. Jason Weingarten will stop by for 5 minutes. I'm on the Nats. Again, I said it's your obligation, if you're doing this right, to have bet him on the series before Game 1, to have bet him Game 1. I say it again for Game 2. Let's find out what he's got today. He had yes on the first inning yesterday. Yuli Gurriel to win the MVP. We'll find out what Jason's doing. It's next on A Numbers Game right here at VSiN.
Keep it right here for more of A Numbers Game with Gill Alexander.
If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
This actually is now, I think, one of the more intriguing matchups for tomorrow or next weekend, considering next weekend's schedule kind of sucks. Arizona on the road taking on New Orleans. So what's the status here? Because we're kind of getting near the range of Drew Brees.
Yeah.
Maybe making his way back. I haven't seen anything anywhere near official about him coming back here against Arizona, but how do you guys handle that? What'd you open
I don't
this?
think it makes a big deal. I don't think it makes a big difference at this point, does it?
Well, we talked about it before we put up this number this afternoon. First of all, Matt's right. I don't think it's a huge point spread adjustment, but the reason we opened it at 7.5, thinking it'd be Bridgewater, is New Orleans actually has their bye next week.
Yeah.
And they won again today. Mm-hmm. So there's really no reason to rush Breeze back. If they sit him out this week, a game they should win anyway, then he gets 2 more weeks to recover. We think he'll come back after the bye. We opened it 7.5. Now we're up to 8.5, John.
Wow. Cardinals showing enough for you that you might want to get in on a
No,
big
I
number?
don't think so. Actually, the Saints have been a tough team to bet against.
Yeah.
The last couple of weeks, a lot of people were looking to bet against the Saints with
Yes.
the Jaguars 2 weeks ago, with the Bears today. Now I'm gonna quit this exercise of betting against the Saints. And the Cardinals not in a great spot here, having to play back-to-back road games.
And Tampa Bay too, Matt. 2 weeks ago, everybody was on the Bucs at New Orleans, if you remember that game.
Good point, yeah.
We're seeing money come in against New Orleans every week from both sharps and public players, and the Saints keep covering every week. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Saints not a great team to step in front of right now.
Well, and that's actually kind of what my question was in terms of what adjustments do you make? Because the power rating's been kind of weird since Teddy Bridgewater's taken over. Because you look back at these numbers, right, when they were catching 2.5 on the road against Dallas, when they were
at home against Dallas.
Yeah, at home against Dallas. Yeah. 3. They were just laying 3 against the Bucs. The Jacksonville game, it was 2.5. Right. I mean, there was just been some weird numbers around a team that continues to perform.
Yeah, and the bettors keep going against them. Is the short answer. But I agree with you. Clearly, they're not a team that, based on the results, they're not a team that's priced correctly right now. But the bettors just keep coming in against them every week.
All right, quickly, Oakland on the road against Houston. What do you have for this one?
Houston -7, even money in this game. Raiders didn't look great today, but that game could have been a lot closer than that final score.
Yeah, again, the Raiders on this tough 5-week trip, and this is the last of the 5 games away from home. At Minnesota, Indianapolis, in London against the Bears, today Green Bay, and then next week in Houston. Tough 5-week stretch for the Raiders. What's interesting here is the Packers today closed, 4.5?
Mm-hmm. It pushed back up a little bit. It did get as low as 4.5, Matt, but it pushed back up to like 5.5 range.
Yeah, so we were seeing 4.5 pretty much across the board yesterday, and you're right, it came back up today. But in this spot, the Texans are 7, so a little surprised. I thought this number would be like 6.
Houston, not a great home team, more of a road team, generally speaking.
Welcome back to A Numbers Game with Gill Alexander.
If you missed the VSiN show today or any day, maybe you couldn't listen to as much as you wanted because your commute perhaps wasn't 2 hours or however long it is. Maybe you just couldn't believe what you heard and need to hear it again. You can find highlights from all VSiN's programs available in an easy-to-download podcasting format. Go to vsin.com/bestbets. That's VSIN.com/bestbets. Or look for the VSiN Best Bets podcast via Apple, Google, or Spotify. Yesterday on the show and today again, I called it your obligation, if you're doing this right, to bet the Washington Nationals series, Game 1, Game 2 again tonight. This gentleman hit his first inning bet, yesterday, gave it out Yuli Gurriel at 30-1 MVP, and of course, Gurriel immediately did both things for him in the first inning with a 2-out, 2 RBI shot on a 1-2 pitch from Max Scherzer there with 2 down. And so gets the yes on the first inning. First salvo for Gurriel to get the MVP. Of course, the Astros are going to have to sort of oblige as a team. Can't lose the series. But you get it. He's kind of on it. He is a savant of baseball. You can follow him on Twitter at Spreadopedia. Ladies and gentlemen, from under a cloud of smoke somewhere in Southern California, it's Jason Weingarten. Good morning, Jason.
Morning, Gill. How's it going?
How you doing? You like that game last night? Forget the betting, just from an excitement standpoint.
Yeah, it was a really good game. Couldn't really ask for more from a World Series game from a team that's not the Dodgers.
We're doing the same for a team that's not the Dodgers. Little fandom right there from Jason. So, yes on the first inning again tonight, I'm assuming?
Probably. I haven't bet it yet, but it's more of a price thing. If I could find a good price, I'll play it, and I'm pretty sure I can find a playable price today.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at the battle of aces as we are with Strasburg and Verlander, that will probably fit the bill. Right now, again, for the game, Strasburg plus 165, Verlander minus 180. What are your thoughts on these numbers, Jason? Because this is just, I called it criminally inflated lines. Yesterday at the South Point, and a lot of this has to do with Mattress Max bets now, Jason, but at the South Point, it got all the way on the series to the Nationals at plus 230.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. In historical context, you didn't hear this yesterday. I did the top 5 upsets of all time in the World Series. Number 3 before yesterday, because now the Nats are the third biggest price if they're able to pull this off. But what would be number 4? The Marlins in 2003 against the Yankees. So now think about the perception we had of that Marlins team. That was the end, just a little after the Yankee dynasty. And the Marlins were this, ragtag team of guys that they built up and then they got rid of right after the game. But if you just put your mind into how we felt about that team, and then you fast forward here, the Nats have more bang for your buck. It's a Scherzer, Strasburg-led team. I mean, that more than anything should tell you what we're dealing with here in terms of how ridiculous this price is.
Sort of. I have some thoughts on the Astros and losing Game 1 and how it's not the end of the world losing the first game. They lost the first game, the last World Series against Dodgers too. It's not, it wasn't the end of the world there. But I really think if you're just looking last night as a one-off game, the pitching strategy that the Nationals used is unsustainable over a 7-game series. I mean, they had to bring in Corbin to get an inning, and they really should have left him in for 2. Their 2 relievers, what's his name, Hudson and Rainey. They both gave up runs. That's the more looks you give the Astros, the more looks at your pen you give the Astros, the worse it's going to be. And they gave the Astros a full-on look at all their relievers in the first game yesterday.
I agree with that. But I also think I disagree in the sense that I don't think Martinez could have left in Corbin as a lefty to face those right-handed batters at the top of the lineup. Because if you look at the splits on Rainey versus Corbin, it's not very close. Like Rainey was, if Rainey does his job, I think that's the right move. I will say this. All of this under the context of Davey Martinez can only do so much with that bullpen, right? Like, so he's got to piece it together. And if his starter only goes 5 innings, he's up against it no matter what. So unsustainable for sure, as long as those starters are going 5 innings.
And it was a really good performance by the Nationals last night, especially because Scherzer started the game in a hole down 2-0. So for them to grind out that win was a pretty big deal. Mm-hmm. But I'm just worried that their strategy is almost unsustainable unless, tonight you're basically asking Strasburg to give you seven innings.
Right.
Six isn't going to cut it. You need 7 from him tonight. And then even then you're going to be holding on to the seat of your pants for those final 8 outs. I
think that's true for sure. I agree with all of that. You're right. I mean, if they only get 5 innings from their starters, they are going to be up against it because they're already dealing with a implosion at any moment bullpen to begin with. So you're right. I mean, look, That's what they're hoping for. 7 innings from Strasburg. And you're right. Even then, you kind of hold your breath. But that's kind of the nature of this. So, yeah, it's just a matter of, can the Houston Astros tax these starters? They did so with Scherzer yesterday. They'll try to do the same with Strasburg tonight. Any bets besides first inning that you're looking at today?
I'm actually looking at the under today, under 7.5, assuming there's not been a ball change again and we're getting juiced balls.
Here we go.
I think the under is the way to go for the second game. I'm really interested in this game because this is a real big sort of turning point. If the Astros level the series, it's really positive for them. If they lose tonight, it could be incredibly dangerous. I don't think they're going to lose, but I didn't think they'd lose yesterday, and they did. So,
yeah.
It's baseball.
It's baseball, and because it's baseball, you're right. There's kind of a scenario. You didn't quite finish the sentence, but there's a scenario where this could be quick, right? Like if Strasburg wins, then it's Sanchez, I'm guessing, in Game 3 against Greinke, who's been having trouble. So, yeah, tonight, obviously, huge. Captain Obvious statement. Right now, Strasburg at plus 159 on the game, what I'm seeing. The total is 7, with the under slightly juiced at minus 115. So, under for you in the game.
Did it move? It moved 7 this morning?
I see 7, yeah.
It did open 7.5, though.
Yeah.
It was 7.5.
Yeah, it opened. It was 7.5 last night.
Yeah, I'm seeing 7 now, at least where I'm looking. Maybe you can
No,
find
it's 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, it moved.
Are you doing any team total unders at all?
No, I haven't really touched the team totals in the World Series yet. Is that Crackman there, by the way?
That is correct. I'm sorry.
I actually just I just went and followed you. I don't know why. I thought I was following you already, and I just went and followed you though. Because hey, listen, Jason. It's funny. Last week I was here on Thursday, and you had yes to be a run in the first inning, and then again you did it again yesterday. I'm told. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And good job. And we're on the same side. I was on the over in that game last week also. And yeah, it's amazing the prices here in Vegas though. I was saying to Gill during the break, compared to anywhere else. I mean, they were low hanging fruit actually was yesterday. +2. You could have played yesterday's game or the series virtually no juice. You could have minus 200, plus 200. You could have taken on the and plus 230 on the series here. Even tonight, I noticed just now, circa this game is minus 106 at one place, and it's plus 106 at circa. I mean, this is virtually this is going. I'm sorry, this is the series, and it's virtually juice-free baseball out here in the desert, and probably because of the mattress guy.
Totally because of.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a plus 170 on the screen right now that I'm looking at here in town on tonight's game, and it's probably something to do with that guy.
For sure.
Yeah, so
for sure.
I don't mean to be taking your.
No.
It was. We're talking about the total though. Yes, it was 7.5 under 15, and it did move overnight. He's right.
Hey, Jason, here's what I really want to know as you go out. Dominican baseball today. Any picks?
I had one game yesterday. I haven't been betting very much Dominican baseball yet. I will.
Ask? Yeah.
It's just so early in the winter ball season. I haven't really gotten moving on the winter ball, but there's some cool stuff. I saw Ubaldo Jimenez is starting pitcher for one of the teams there. There's a lot of notable names popping up in the AAA winter leagues, but I haven't really got it started yet.
Thought I'd ask. You would be the person to ask.
About a week away.
Okay. Jason Weingarten at Spreadopedia, professional sports bettor, a baseball savant, who is betting the under tonight, the Nationals and the Astros, and will probably look for a yes if it gets there with the price that he wants. Yes, will a run be scored in the first inning. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Nice to talk to you. Nice to talk to you, Bill. I'll talk to you guys later.
Great point from Jason, too, because he was texting about this last night, that if, look, the Nats are obviously hoping they get more than 5 innings from these starters, but that is unsustainable. Like if Strasburg goes 5 again tonight, let's just say they tax him and his pitch count runs high, yeah, the Astros can't. The Nats aren't going to win with the Astros seeing these relievers over and over and over again with opportunities. So they need 7 from Strasburg tonight, but I think Strasburg's their best pitcher, and I think Verlander's not as good as Cole. So I'm all about the Nationals again.
Would you ever think that you would see this throughout the year? I know it's the World Series. I know it's the best teams. Did you ever think you'd see Strasburg? There's a plus 170. Strasburg plus 170. Scherzer last night.
It's insane.
It's actually insane. It's almost on GP. You have to go with the price on these. Listen, I bet the series. I wasn't planning to bet, but they're giving you a price. They're forcing you to bet.
Bill,
they're saying, hey, we have too much money on this. Please take the other side.
I've never said on this show before until yesterday. I go, it is your obligation to bet this. I've never said, come on.
It is.
Yeah. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up. Bill Krackomberger right here on A Numbers Game at VSiN.
Keep it right here for more of A Numbers Game with Gill Alexander.
If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
It is amazing that a guy like Andrew Wiggins and how highly heralded this kid was coming out, that he seems to clearly be the weakest link of this starting lineup for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Just a couple of numbers when it comes to Wiggins. Career low, .989 points per shot attempt last year on offense. Shot 34% from beyond the arc and in mid-range jumpers too. Looking at the lineup as a whole, kind of hard when you look at this team to gauge what they're going to be. I think they're just going to be a team that can kind of score in a lot of games, kind of like a Chicago Bulls, Atlanta Hawks-esque type team. But Andrew Wiggins has to be, at least in terms of the money they have given him, a huge disappointment, and he's got to improve because this is a team that is kind of stuck in purgatory, and another one of these teams that is going to be maybe on the verge of losing a star like Karl Anthony Towns and trying to force his way out.
And so you're like, well, how is everyone watching the same thing in super slow motion? And the rules experts come on, and then they emphasize that they got it wrong on the field. It seems like ego is almost playing a part in not reversing some of the calls, which is what they have to eradicate, right? It can no longer be, well, how do you interpret it now that, okay, well, is it going to make you look bad? You have to remove that part of it because otherwise it becomes really glaring, and it does seem like they're trying to affect the narrative of these games.
Tired of all those talking heads making predictions? Well, then it's time to get behind your convictions. Don't watch a game without downloading the BetMGM Sports New Jersey app or visiting BetMGM.com. New customers can make their first bet completely risk-free, up to $500. That's a nice way to start the season. When you download the app, be sure to use my bonus code VSIN500 at the sign-up to get your $500 risk-free bet. That's bonus code VSIN500 to place your first BetMGM wager risk-free. You can sign up and deposit anywhere, but you must be in the state of New Jersey to place a sports bet. Enough talk. Believe in your game. Believe in your bet. BetMGM Sports. Download the BetMGM Sports New Jersey app now.
Must be 21 or older. In New Jersey only. Restrictions apply. Visit BetMGM.com for the full list of terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Welcome back to A Numbers Game with Gill Alexander.
Oh, there's Darryl Green on the TV in front of me. My childhood is back again. Hall of Fame cornerback Darryl Green. We get tweets at Beating the Book. Let's do some tweets right here. Let's see here. Because people, great feedback again today and every day, so we appreciate that. Gabe, what skincare products does Crack use? Skin looks solid. I need that moisturizer.
Is that what he said?
Yeah. We were talking about your suntan lotion before.
Going to be 52 years old. It's a clean living. No smoking, no drinking, no doing drugs.
Your buddies over at Gaming Today, quote, these dames rough it up, unquote. Throwback Bill on a numbers game blast from the past. Simple as that, sports. What a great discussion about sharp, quote unquote. My biggest concern, and you've referenced this before, is the floodgates of exposure that some people get is amazing, all because they're able to label themselves as sharp or wise guy. Thank goodness for you and VSiN. Thank you, and that echoes many of my thoughts for sure. Gabe, great point about betting mistakes. That's why when betting on paper is so much easier because it takes out emotion and human error. Here's one. Patrick McDonald. Love Todd on the show ranting about the dumb chains being used after a touchback. One request. Can you ask Todd when he does his video updates if he holds the phone a tad farther from his mug? and on and on. We appreciate.
Hey, did we do okay? People don't know this that aren't watching, and actually, that even if you're watching, you don't know it.
Yeah.
We had the Musburgers in the studio here for a portion of the show.
We did. Brian and his lovely wife Michelle.
Yeah. So did we? I hope it's like Paul Castellano walking in, boss of bosses. I want to make sure.
Here, you think this is how it went? They came in, they heard us, they like chatted with each other quietly, and
they did.
Walked down to the studio, and they're like, those two.
Yeah. No, they walked out with something like that. Yeah.
Let's not ever come in there.
But we didn't do nothing that we normally would do.
No, we were
just
fine. They were
high energy.
They were wonderful. All right. So, are you on anything tonight, Bill, in the baseball? Because you said you weren't going to bet this,
Listen,
but the prices
I bet
are
the
so
series,
egregious, right?
And right now, if I would take this. There's a 170 dangling on the screen here. I know that the app's not going to take much.
Strasburg?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would. I'm not saying I'm betting it to bet it. I would just, if the price, listen, if the offshore, real simple, if the offshore price is minus 168 and here in town I can get plus 170, I'm taking the 170 on general principle, just like the 230 on the series last night.
You bet NBA early at all or no?
A little bit, yes. I do bet. Real quick, we had a great NBA season last year, won about 50 units with Kraken. Okay. So I'm definitely going to look forward to totals. I bet a lot of totals.
Next week, I'm going to get a pick from you.
Yes.
All right. Coming back, absolutely. Enjoy baseball, basketball. Good luck with all your bets at VSiN.
Keep it right here for more of A Numbers Game with Gill Alexander.
If you didn't catch VSiN last week, here's some of what you missed.
It is amazing that a guy like Andrew Wiggins, and how highly heralded this kid was coming out, that he seems to clearly be the weakest link of this starting lineup for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Just a couple of numbers when it comes to Wiggins. Career low, .989 points per shot attempt last year on offense. Shot 34% from beyond the arc and in mid-range jumpers, too.